The man put on an ancient t-shirt, and something magical happened. The clothing merged with his body, ultimately transforming into a symbol brand. The man's name was Hade, and the t-shirt he wore dated back 1,000 years. The woman was very surprised witnessing this scene, and then she pulled out a handgun from her waist, aiming it at Hade. After pulling the trigger, a 9mm bullet swiftly flew out, hitting him directly in the forehead. Hade instantly fell to the ground. Surprisingly, the bullet did not penetrate Hade. Instead, at the moment of impact, it turned into scrap metal. Although the bullet didn't harm Hade, the massive impact made him dizzy, causing him to vomit into a trash can. What was the origin of this garment, and why did it possess such magical powers? The story goes back 1,000 years. At this time, the country of Istan faced a disaster, where 6 immortal beings caused chaos on their lands, with intentions to conquer the entire world. One night, the king received guidance in his dream. He learned that there were 3 mysterious treasures that could kill the immortal beings, and put an end to all this. These 3 treasures are a sapphire ring, a unique dagger, and a t-shirt with mystical runes. By wearing this t-shirt, one would gain an invincible body like a diamond, capable of winning every battle on the battlefield. Hade's ancestors were the guardians of this t-shirt, preserving and passing down this garment. However, the immortal beings did not cease their pursuit of these treasures. Until recently, the secrets of the t-shirt began to reveal themselves. Before learning about his mysterious identity, Hade was just a small-time troublemaker, hanging out and getting into trouble with his friends every day. He would play in his father's antique shop. One day, a woman came to the shop, looking to buy a t-shirt, but his father said they didn't have such an item. Hade was puzzled, as the clothing the woman mentioned was actually in the cellar. Upon realizing that what she was looking for wasn't there, the woman left a business card and departed. Shortly after, Hade's friend Memo, unable to pay rent due to gambling debts, he was evicted by landlord. After Memo was forced out of his place, he gathered his belongings and sought out Hade. However, the friend's father refused to help, leaving the two without a place to stay. They came up with a crooked plan, intending to sell the t-shirt from the seller. Hade, following the business card, contacted the previous female buyer, unaware of the clothing's background. The woman who bought the t-shirt turned out to be no ordinary person. She always brought bodyguards when shopping for clothes. Subsequently, she offered a price of 1 million, a figure that left the two speechless. As they prepared for the transaction, Hade's father came out to stop them. At that moment, a figure in black appeared, aiming a gun at them. Hade's father shouted for Hade to run quickly. Amidst the chaos, his father was shot. The woman's bodyguards and assassins all perished. His father refused medical treatment, and instead indicated a pharmacy he wanted to go to. Upon arriving at the pharmacy, Dr. Merck took him to a separate room to treat him. When Hade arrived, his father was nowhere to be found. The doctor's daughter Lena quickly locked the door, leading Hade through a secret passage to the basement. Unfortunately, his father's injuries were too severe. Despite the doctor's best efforts to save him, his life could not be saved. He told Hade that the man was not his biological father. With the doctor's explanation, Hade learned about his guardian identity. Too much had happened in a short time, overwhelming Hade with a massive amount of information. When he returned to his neighborhood the next day, he noticed several strangers dressed in black around his house. His neighbor Auntie informed Hade that after his father was taken to the clinic, strangers began appearing at their doorstep. Hade understood in his heart that these people were surely searching for the whereabouts of the t-shirt. Memo was captured by the henchmen of the immortal beings. He subjected to harsh interrogation, yet Memo did not reveal any valuable information. His friends suddenly went missing, causing Hade great anxiety. He needed to find Memo. Lena suggested that he put on the t-shirt. As they searched for Memo's whereabouts, upon arriving at a park, they spotted Memo sitting on a bench. Ignoring Lena's dissuasion, he rushed towards Memo, unaware of the sniper lying in ambush nearby, aiming his sniper rifle ready to fire at any moment. Hade nudged Memo. He discovered that due to the torment of the villains, Memo had lost his life, becoming a lifeless body. At that moment, a gunshot shattered the silence, followed immediately by a series of thunderous shots, each bullet hitting Hade. He fell to the ground. Lena rushed forward, pulling him up to escape, but the assassin, at that moment, also found it unbelievable. He watched as Hade, despite being hit by 4 bullets, still ran away. Filled with shock, the The gunshots had long faded, but the echo of the bullets hitting seemed to linger in the air. Although he wasn't shot, the impact of the bullets made Haid kneel and vomit. Lena helped him to the wall, covering his mouth, trying to calm him down. The assassin could likely be tracking them. Within 2 days, Haid's best friend and his foster father passed away. The pain in his heart was something only he could truly understand. At this moment, Haid was filled with anger and a strong desire for revenge. However, anger couldn't solve the problem. They still needed to find 2 special items, one to identify the Immortal's ring, and the other to kill them a dagger. Although the path of revenge was tough, Haid believed that, only by gathering these 2 sacred items, could he avenge his lost loved ones and friends. Haid and his companions embarked on a mission, their goal to find the ring and dagger. At the same time, the woman struggling on the sickbed was the key to their search for clues. She was choked and pinned to the bed, and by the time Merc arrived, it was too late. The woman had already passed away, and to make matters worse, she was the only one who knew the whereabouts of the ring. Merc resumed his search for clues, embarking on a new journey. Although Haid was eager for revenge, without the magical t-shirt, he remained an ordinary person. Hence, Lena and Merc prepared a training regimen for him. Lena taught Haid combat skills daily, while Merc forged Haid's willpower. Merc placed searing hot iron in Haid's palms, to test his endurance and determination. In the face of this brutal ordeal, Haid closed his eyes, initially not feeling any pain. When he opened his eyes, he was startled. Merc quickly took Haid's hand, guiding him to regulate his breathing, and encouraging Haid to try to connect with the magical garment within him. At that moment, smoke appeared on his back, a unique gift of the Guardian. Shortly after, Merc found clues about the ring. They understood that they had to obtain this item before the Immortals. Following that, Lena opened the bookcase, but it didn't contain any books. Much to Haid's surprise, however, she didn't provide Haid with any weapons, because Lena believed that he no longer needed them. The 2 quickly arrived at a house with tightly closed windows. Upon entering, they found the inside of the house in complete disarray. On the sofa, a man was lying there, whom Lena subdued upon approaching. The man claimed to be Isaac's son and led them into Isaac's room. He explained that 7 years ago, a group of people stormed into the house and ransacked it. After that incident, Isaac suffered mental trauma and stopped speaking. Subsequently, the man mentioned he was going to make tea, went into a room, and made a phone call. At that moment, the surveillance on the computer screen in front of the man was focused on Lena and the others. Lena informed Isaac that she was Merc's daughter, but Isaac just looked around, maintaining his deranged state. However, when Haid mentioned his biological father, Isaac finally reacted, and Haid quickly revealed the Guardian symbol. Immediately after, they finally found the 1,000-year-old ring. Haid attempted to reach for it but was stopped by Isaac. After 7 years of silence, Isaac, for the first time, spoke. She stated that the man just now was not her child, and urged the 2 to escape. Suddenly, a figure burst in, the man who had gone to make tea, entering with a gun in hand. Lena quickly subdued him, and Haid sprang into action, kicking away the weapons on the floor, and then pinning him against the wall. Just as they were preparing to interrogate the man, Isaac, who had been insane for 7 years, pulled the trigger. The man fell without a sound, taking his last breath. They acted swiftly, smashing the surveillance computer. Meanwhile, the assassins informed by the man had arrived on the scene. Isaac stood at the door, quickly locking the iron gate. She was ready to sacrifice herself to buy time for the 2. She told Haid that she had waited 7 years for him, and that everyone was sworn to protect him. Serving his father was her honor. After speaking, Isaac handed the ring to Haid, revealing a crucial detail. The gem on the ring belonged to a person named Sinan. The ring had to be paired with the gem for it to work, and that was all Isaac knew. Though her words carried regret, they also held a sense of liberation. At this moment, 3 assassins had made their way upstairs. Lena acted swiftly, grabbing a chair, smashing the blocked window, and then waking Haid up. She reminded him that they must escape quickly. After Lena and Haid jumped out of the window to escape, Isaac fired several shots towards the door. Shortly after, another round of gunfire erupted. However, one assassin quickly rushed out from inside the house. Due to wearing enchanted clothing, Haid was unharmed. Lena, holding a handgun, steady and decisive, fired several shots, bringing down the target and ending the crisis. Afterwards, she and Haid boarded a car. Before driving off, Lena shot out the tires of the assassin's car, They quickly started their vehicle and vanished from the assassin's view. While fleeing, Haid received a call from a hiring company informing him of an interview. He was received by a secretary named Evan, who worked for the boss. The interview process bored Haid, and he had no interest in the job. Suddenly, security Captain Dracula answered a phone call, mentioning the name of the recently deceased shooter, and bringing up matters related to the ring. In this moment, Haid immediately realized that he needed to work here to gather more information, because it was highly likely that the deaths of his foster father and friend were connected to this company. And so, Haid officially joined this company, and informed Merc and others about this matter. Shortly after, at a gathering, an unexpected incident occurred, when a man wielding a blade charged towards Dan. Luckily, Haid spotted him in time and swiftly subdued the assassin. The gathering was disrupted, and the police arrived to investigate. Fortunately, Haid's actions earned the appreciation of Evan, and praise from the boss. However, Haid was unaware that the boss, Dan, was the immortal, and the one who killed his biological father. That evening, Evan and Haid enjoyed romantic moments together, while Lena returned home. Upon returning home, Lena was startled to find her father bound to a chair with his mouth covered. She raised her handgun, scanning her surroundings vigilantly. Suddenly, a figure darted by, and a man who rushed out knocked Lena unconscious. When Lena woke up again, she found Curly rummaging through something. Following that, a dramatic scene unfolded. It turned out that Curly was also a member of the Loyal Aid, and upon learning about the missing ring, he followed. Curly's real name is Amy, and he hails from the same town as Haid's biological parents, both from Prince Island. The next day, Amy came to find Merc, and upon learning about the situation, Haid asked him to take him home. Upon arriving at Prince Island, Amy took Haid to his original home, where Haid felt a sense of familiarity and belonging. When Amy's father saw Haid, he revealed the full story behind Haid's parents' deaths. It turns out that Haid's family has been guardians for generations, and by the time of his father, there were only 2 immortals left. Haid's father successfully killed one, while the other managed to escape. As Haid's father took off the enchanted clothing to clean off the blood, the escaped immortal sneaked into his home. A loud noise from downstairs alerted Haid's father to trouble, prompting him to quickly descend to investigate, forgetting to put on the enchanted garment. However, it was too late when he reached downstairs. His wife had already been murdered, lying in a pool of blood. Overwhelmed by grief, Haid's father didn't notice the enemy behind him. By the time the members of the Loyal Aid arrived, both the husband and wife had already perished, while a young Haid, hidden in a cupboard, escaped detection, and was rescued in time by Amy's father. From then on, Haid became the sole inheritor of the Guardian's lineage. Upon hearing all of this, Haid burst into tears. Driven by vengeance, he quickly returned to his job, realizing he needed more intelligence to avenge his father and dear friend. Thankfully, after this period of work, he could confirm that Dracula was indeed the immortal. However, to kill him, he needed to find that dagger, the mysterious relic, currently housed in the National Museum. After the last Guardian was assassinated, to ensure safety, members of the Loyal Aid donated the dagger to the museum, where security personnel guarded around the clock, making it impossible for the immortal to take it away. Now, to eliminate the threat of the last immortal, they must obtain this dagger. With clear assignments, Haid and Lena disguised themselves as tourists, sneaking into the museum multiple times for reconnaissance. They extensively surveyed the museum, discovering more surveillance than anticipated, with alarm systems visible everywhere, leaving them with almost no chance to steal the dagger. Nonetheless, they did not return empty-handed. With the help of high-tech glasses, they managed to uncover the door lock password for the control room. The surveillance issue was successfully resolved. After several days of careful study, Haid devised an action plan. However, the biggest challenge remained. Even if they obtained the dagger, how could they find an escape route within the museum? To tackle this dilemma, Merc directed them to seek out a girl named Sharon. Her father was a former security guard at the museum, and a member of the Loyal Aid. Due to her father's profession, Sharon grew up playing in the museum and was familiar with it. After her father passed away, Sharon resorted to wandering the streets to survive. When the 2 individuals found her, the girl was selling women's lingerie on the street, showcasing a rather extravagant display. This surprised the 2, but they could only step forward to greet her. Unexpectedly, Sharon ran off upon seeing herself. A chase ensued, with the girl knocking over multiple stalls before the 2 caught her. It turned out that the girl thought they were debt collectors, until Haid revealed the mark of the Guardian, which eased her concerns. She then explained that it was indeed her father who placed the dagger in the museum, and infiltrated it disguised as a security guard. Unfortunately, he passed away before meeting the members of the Loyal Aid, leaving Sharon to carry on her father's mission. She handed her bracelet to Haid, a seemingly ordinary accessory holding the crucial information they needed. When Haid opened the pendant on the bracelet, the password to the rooftop appeared inside. Armed with this valuable clue, they decided to carry out Haid's plan at night. At night, following the information provided by Sharon, he infiltrated the museum. They climbed to the museum's rooftop, evading the security cameras, and made use of the password captured by the glasses. Once inside the room, they sabotaged the server's wires. The next day, Haid disguised himself as a maintenance worker and re-entered the museum, while Lena and Sharon entered as visitors, ready to provide support. They were on standby, and Haid made his way to the control room first. He asked a security guard for directions, then caught them off guard, using a prepared cloth to incapacitate one guard, and then knocking out the other. Haid quickly locked the main door, and inserted a USB drive into the computer. At this moment, Merc swiftly connected, and successfully took control of the surveillance and alarm systems. Merc then messaged Lena and Sharon. Upon receiving the signal, the two prepared to play their roles. Sharon took many visitors' phones, and then Lena loudly declared inside the museum that her phone was missing. People reached for their pockets, only to find their phones missing as well. Sharon then dashed out of the room, successfully leading everyone outside. Chaos reigned outside, as Haid took the opportunity to enter the room. However, the security guard, who had just been subdued, suddenly woke up, and triggered the alarm. Merc retrieved his weapon, entered the museum, and fired into the air to control the situation. Inside the museum, Haid used small explosives to blast through the bulletproof glass. At the moment, he was about to grab the dagger. The image of the Guardian from 1,000 years ago appeared in his mind. However, just at that moment, the alarm sounded. Haid was about to seize the opportunity to leave, when he was spotted by the security guard he had knocked out earlier. Merc fired 2 shots in succession, frightening everyone, as Haid swiftly entered the code and ran to the rooftop. However, a group of security guards caught up from behind, firing several shots at Haid. Haid leaped forward, astonishing the 3 guards, who had caught up. They couldn't believe their eyes. Despite being shot at by the guards, Haid managed to escape. Taking advantage of the chaos, Sharon changed the license plates, and Haid boarded the vehicle. Unfortunately, Merc was captured. At this moment, the entire city was filled with police, and the 3 of them had no choice but to flee temporarily. Soon, news of the stolen dagger spread throughout the media. Damn the Undying conducted an investigation through his subordinates, and quickly confirmed that Haid was the last surviving descendant of the Guardians. Following this, the police stormed into Merc's pharmacy for a search. Fortunately, Haid and Lena hid in a secret room and avoided capture. The next day, Sharon deliberately caused a commotion, rushing into the police station and making a scene like a child. While she embraced the captured Merc, he left Lena a message to find a person named Timu. It turned out that Timu was the founder of the Loyalist Gang, a bar owner who straddled both sides of the law, and he had blamed himself for not being able to protect Haid's family for many years. With Timu's assistance, Merc was soon released. Not long ago, the assailant broke past the security personnel and entered Dam's office, preparing to assassinate him. Fortunately, Haid managed to defuse the crisis just in time, saving his life. Dam, furious, summoned security captain Dracula to question why the security members he personally trained had caused such a situation. Dam threatened to have Haid replace Dracula as the security captain. Enraging Dracula, who then sedated and tied Haid to a chair. Dracula furiously kicked the chair over, causing Haid and the chair to fall, shattering the glass table behind them. Haid's girlfriend, Avon, passing by, heard the noise. Haid picked up a piece of glass, cut the ropes, and stabbed Dracula in the neck with it. However, Dracula died. Looking at the dead security captain, Haid was shocked. It turned out that before this, everyone believed that Dracula was an immortal, who had lived for 1,000 years. Now, Haid had become a murderer. Just at that moment, Avon opened the door, and was stunned by the scene before her. The next day, Haid was taken away by the police. In the split second when he turned back, he noticed the necklace given to his girlfriend by the boss was shining, the same light emitted by the missing gem on the ring. It was then that he realized Dam was the true immortal. At the police station, the police expressed doubt about Haid's claim of self-defense, because the deceased had his throat slashed by glass. Yet Haid himself had no injuries, and he couldn't reveal his true identity. Meanwhile, Dam returned to the company with Avon. He told his secretary that he was 1,000 years old, Upon hearing this, Avon burst into laughter. Dan then plunged a knife into his own neck, shocking Avon. However, even more bizarre events unfolded. Dan pulled out the knife, and Avon noticed that the blade was not stained with blood. Dan was indeed the immortal, who had lived for 1,000 years. Only the mysterious dagger could kill him. He informed Avon that he had long known Hade's guardian identity, and intended to use her to threaten Hade. Subsequently, he went to the police station, and spent a fortune of 10 million to bail out Hade. It turned out that Hade carried special blood that could revive Dam's wife, who had been in a 20-year slumber. Subsequently, he asked Hade to come to the office with the dagger. Upon entering the room, Hade discovered that his girlfriend was tied to a chair. Dam fired a shot at Avon. He forced Hade to hand over his magical cloak. Faced with such a high-pressure situation, Hade worried about his girlfriend's safety. He was compelled to comply with Dam's demand. He took off the protective magical cloak. He reached out and touched the runes on his chest, holding them tightly, and forcefully pulled them out. As the runes detached, the magical cloak also came off. This action would bring him endless troubles. After taking the magical cloak, Dam did not hesitate. He then took out a small bottle and threw it to Hade. After taking the bottle, Hade picked up the knife from the ground. He held it and cut his own skin. Blood flowed into the bottle. After finishing, Hade threw the bottle filled with blood to Dam. Unexpectedly, Dam once again aimed the gun at Avon, demanding that Hade prepare the dagger and place it in his own hand. Faced with this threat, Hade could only comply. After obtaining the necessary items, Dam retreated to the door of the room, instructing his men to clean up the scene, while he rushed to the cemetery to resurrect his wife. Shortly after, several henchmen entered the room, following Dam's orders, preparing to deal with Hade. Without the protection of the magical cloak, Hade no longer had an invulnerable body, and he could potentially lose his life to the assailants. He understood the situation he was in. Facing Avon, he had no choice but to swiftly launch a counterattack, and seek a way out in the midst of the crisis. After successfully dealing with several henchmen, tears welled up in Hade's eyes. He picked up the heavily injured Avon, and quickly drove to Mock's pharmacy. Upon their arrival, the pharmacy was eerily quiet. Unfortunately, Avon died in front of Hade, losing her life alongside her foster father, close friend, and girlfriend. Due to his actions, he roared in anger, facing the harsh reality, which only strengthened Hade's resolve for revenge. He vowed to save Avon, and give her a second chance at life. However, the only way to save her lay within the dagger he had previously handed over to Dam. Only with that dagger could an immortal be killed. Moreover, the blood of an immortal is the fountain of healing. Feeding it to Avon can awaken her dormant life. On the other side, Merc, in order to uncover the final immortal, along with Lena, found Dia, who had been expelled by the faction years ago. She was once a key figure in hunting and monitoring immortals. However, Dia remained loyal to the immortals, drawing a line between herself and her faction, a betrayal that led to her expulsion from the group. After Merc and his daughter found Dia, they were ambushed from behind by her henchmen, who held guns to their backs and captured them. Despite their efforts to resist, they did not obtain crucial information. Instead, they were imprisoned in a cold iron box. Dia opened the gas valve. In despair, Lena, relying on wit and courage, escaped through a narrow ventilation shaft. When she opened the iron door, her father Merc had already suffocated to death, a scene that left her devastated. Not long after, deep in the basement of the St. Sophia Church, an archaeologist was studying precious artifacts, when he was suddenly attacked, orchestrated by Dam. Knocked down, the archaeologist died on the ground. It turned out that the basement concealed the tombs of 6 immortals. At the moment the archaeologist fell, Dam set down the dagger in his hand, and then opened his wife's stone coffin. Simultaneously, outside the church, Hade and Lena had already arrived and brought Avon to the scene. Hade was preparing to feed blood to his wife, for a resurrection ceremony that was about to begin. Just in time, Hade arrived and knocked over the cup containing the blood. Dam was infuriated. Hade charged towards him, but without the dagger's assistance, he couldn't harm the immortal Dam. He had to resort to hand-to-hand combat. Without the magical cloak, Hade was just an ordinary man. He was overwhelmed by the opponent's force, and quickly knocked down, but Dam was not satisfied. He remarked that Hade's skills were far inferior to his father's. With that, he kicked and struck Hade on the ground, but the man on the ground started laughing. It turned out that, in the life-and-death showdown between the two, Lena acted swiftly, picking up the dagger from the ground and throwing it. Hade caught it and struck Dam in a vital spot. However, as he tried to pull out the dagger to strike again, Dam evaded the attack. The two started grappling again, and Lena immediately picked up the dagger from the ground, feeding the blood on it to Avon. Unnoticed by them, the blood previously in the cup was crawling towards the other stone coffin, and merging inside. As the two were locked in a stalemate, a woman's voice rang out. Dam stood frozen in place, and when he turned his head, he was pleasantly surprised to find his deceased wife standing before him. They embraced and wept, while Hade took the dagger from Lena's hand and called out to Dam. The feud between the two was unresolved, and today they had to fight to the death. Suddenly, the entire underground chamber began to shake violently, startling everyone present. Following this, the other 5 undead individuals unexpectedly resurrected from their tombs, and emerged from the stone coffins. Avon, who had been fed blood earlier, also revived. And with that, the story of this season comes to an end. The first season of The Guardian, as a setup, tells the story of the male lead Hade, whose previously peaceful life was disrupted. Upon discovering his identity as a guardian, he then embarked on a journey of revenge, managing to resurrect his girlfriend after much difficulty, only to find that the other 5 archenemies had also been resurrected. The film is full of twists and turns. If you enjoy my channel, please consider subscribing.